This is a look at the first skateboarding publication, Skateboarder Magazine. Launched in 1964, it originally was called the Quarterly Skateboarder. Today we're going to flip through the May 1978 issue. One of the first things you'll notice is how much bigger the wheels were on average, and that's because street skating hadn't started yet, so they were just skating parks and pools and banks and stuff. Skaters weren't really grinding with their trucks until the mid-70s when they started skating pools, and so roller skate trucks are what basically like trucks on skateboards were for a while, but then they started to change and get wider when people started grinding. The skate post. This is where readers would send in letters and questions to the editor, and then the editor would respond, printing them in the mag. Thrasher started doing the same thing when they launched in 1981. Logan, Earth Ski, and Chicago Wheels were really popular brands at that time. They no longer exist. Fun fact, Hout is the H in NHS. Novak, Hout, and Sherman, the guys who founded that, are the people who created Santa Cruz skateboards. And then there's Gordon and Smith, or G&S, which was super popular at that time as well. Neil Blender, one of my favorite skaters, rode for them. 1960s and 70s skaters loved their short shorts. You'll see a bunch more ads with short shorts. A lot of skate parks started popping up in the 70s, and it was skateboarding's second boom, so you started seeing a lot more skate park ads and editorial and new equipment being used, like those gloves you saw. These weird skateboard fins were definitely a short-lived product. I haven't seen any ads besides this one promoting the sky hooks. Skateboarder introduced the skate tip section, which is pretty interesting because they didn't have Instagram back then to watch how things were done. I love how dorky some of these ads are. This is an ad from Val Surf, which is the oldest skate shop in America. It started 2 years before Skateboarder Magazine was published. I've definitely never seen an article about stretching in a skateboard magazine. Pretty interesting. Female skaters like Robin Logan were pretty underrepresented in Skateboarder Magazine in the 1970s and 80s. Skateboard Madness is the first skate video I ever saw, and it actually has some pretty cool claymation skateboarding scenes. See? More big wheels, this time from Bones. Powell Corporation, so formal. Powerflex was a big deal at the time. I think they're actually still around, but Steve Alba used to skate for them before he skated for Santa Cruz. Here we go, more short shorts. These ones have padding inside to, I guess, help you if you fall down. Pretty cool. Turner Summer Ski made these wild shapes for downhill skating, which was really popular. This photo looks like it belongs in a high school yearbook. I like to see how the early skate photographers captured motion, like in this shot right here. You see a lot of these clear plexiglass ramps in the 70s. Seemed like a really bad idea, probably pretty slippery. Skateboarding basically died in 1965 when manufacturers couldn't keep up with the demand and just making better product. They used clay wheels back then, for example, and there were a lot of like safety concerns. But then in the 70s, urethane was invented, and then that opened up a whole new era of skateboarding. That's why they started building all of these different skate parks, like Pipeline Skate Park in Upland, California, super legendary spot. But sadly, a lot of these parks got torn down when skateboarding died again in the 80s. Shogo Kubo and the Green Wheels, and Billy Valdez, who rode for Powerflex. There were a lot of snake runs in parks in the 70s. People weren't, grinding very much yet, so they were mostly just riding, carving, versus skate parks now you see like loads of like rails and ledges to grind. Here, Skateboarder is just sharing new plans for upcoming skate parks. Here's another example of one of those clear plexiglass ramps. There was a lot of experimentation going on at that time. Look at this, 4 trucks on one giant skateboard. Here's an article about pro skaters going to the Virgin Islands to do demos and signings and stuff. I love how all these people agree to just lay down and let this kid jump over them. And then this guy's filming with a really old, awesome camera. And what 70s skate trip article would be complete without a slalom photo? Slalom skating looks kind of goofy, but once you start getting speed going downhill, it's actually really difficult. I was always a fan of the Who's Hot section of Skateboarder, and this dude rode for Team Bane, which was like a really big deal because that brand was huge in the 70s, and they made like 1 million skateboards from their Encinitas factory, like in 4 years, something like ridiculous. And then they also put on like the Del Mar Nationals and other skate events. A couple of brothers, Bill and Bob Bane, founded it. Here's an ad to buy one of those clear polycarbonate ramps. Maharaja Skateboards made this thing to protect your nose, so not a bad idea. Looks kind of wonky. Which 3 would you choose for $1? A new glove for serious skateboarders is a great tagline. This is like the 4th or 5th ad I've seen advertising cones for slalom skating, and these ones say they're especially made for skateboarding. Mellow Cat reminds me a lot of R. Crumb's artwork. I like seeing that even skaters in the late 70s didn't like cops. This board would have been so fun to ride. I've definitely never seen a banana board with handles like that, making it a scooter. Pretty interesting. When Paul Van Doren founded Vans, it was actually originally called the Van Doren Rubber Company. Vans also used to have style numbers for the shoes, and look at the prices, like $18.95. And check out this ankle guard that Vans was making in the late 70s. Most Vans are made in Asia now, but back then they were made in Anaheim, California. Here's an envelope to put your check to get a subscription to Skateboarder. This is how it used to be done, kids. Let me know in the comments if you know what clean skate breakers are. And of course, they carried headbands. Skateboarding made its debut at the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. Interesting to see that 43 years before that, they were trying to sell shirts advertising skateboarding in the Olympics. And the award for most boring ad goes to this insurance ad for the amusement and recreation industry. I've never heard of clear liquid grip tape, but I'd be curious to see how it worked. Years later, Nintendo came out with Power Gloves. Jupiter Skateboards is a great name, and I really like the illustration, very 70s. Legendary Dogtown skater Tony Alva right there. Pretty interesting to see that in the following page, he's also advertising another wheel company called Panther Wheels. So I guess he had 2 wheel sponsors? I mean, he was like a demigod in the late 70s, so I guess he could do whatever he wanted. Hang 10 advertising their hosiery collection. What we today call dropping in was known as the elevator drop back then, which I actually think sounds way cooler. More big, colorful wheels for sale, and this helmet that looks like it's straight out of like when they invented football. There are a lot of famous photos of Tony Alva, but I think this one's really cool. Looks like he had a black eye in it. One of the best names in skateboarding? Never heard of it. Kurt Lindgren was an early freestyle skater who is credited with inventing the earliest form of the kickflip. And finally, a back cover ad for Sim's snake wheels. Hope you enjoyed flipping through the May 1978 issue of Skateboarder.